Welcome everyone to episode 47 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and with me is a very talented trio of sisters hailing from the Jacksonville, Florida area. I had managed to see this band a couple months ago at the Haven in Winter Park, which is just outside of Orlando, and I was very impressed with what I heard. Not only the way the music sounded, but also just the presentation and just the level of professionalism and entertainment, especially from this group of sisters who are very young and definitely have a lot of maturity beyond their years. Definitely lots of talent here. They play a unique blend of hard rock and metalcore played exclusively by women, and they refer to it as Beautycore. So I think we may have invented a new genre over here. I don't know, but they have been together and touring since 2014, and obviously have known each other for a lot longer than that. So please welcome to the Phoenix Report, CJ, Maggie, and Lulu, also known as Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh. Welcome, ladies.
Hey!
Also known as GFM. Ladies, please go ahead and let's go down the row and give me your names, what you do in the band, meaning what instrument you play, and how old you are.
I guess we'll start with me. My name's CJ. I'm the oldest, and I play guitars and do duo vocals.
My name is Maggie. I play bass and keyboards. I'm the middle sister. I'm 17.
I'm Lulu. I'm the drummer, and I'm 13.
That's right. 13. Think about that. What were you doing at 13? I was really impressed by the way you girls played on stage, how you carried yourself. Just everything seemed to be clicking really, really well. Now, obviously, being sisters and knowing each other all your lives, I know that your mom and dad are both involved in the band in terms of management and all that. Were they musicians at all? Like, how did this all come about?
Our dad, he was in love with all the 80s glam metal bands, and he loved going to all the concerts, and our mom loved going to concerts, but they never were really into the musical aspect of it. They were just always in the audience. And so when they had kids, they wanted us to at least try to have that musical ability and just start piano for 2 years. If you hate it, you can quit it, but we want you to at least try because music, it'll make you a more rounded person, and it'll just help you develop your thinking skills and whatnot throughout your life. And we're like, okay, we'll try it. And we were 4. So me and CJ, we started out piano at 4 because we're a year apart, so it was 4 and 5. And CJ would never practice. She's like, I hate piano. It's boring. I don't want to play it. She's like, I want to play guitar because the guitars are cool and piano's stupid. And I'm like, okay, we'll get you a guitar as long as you'll play. So she got a guitar. We knew 6, maybe?
Yeah.
When she was 6, she got a guitar. She started playing it. She wouldn't stop. I stayed with piano. I don't know why. I just always did. So I still kind of play piano. I've dropped off a little bit because bass kind of overtook that. But I was always the one who stayed with piano. And then Lulu, she never even tried. She was like, no, I'm not going to try piano. I just want to play drums right off the bat. I'm not even going to do piano. And we're like, oh, okay. So at 4 and a half, she started playing drums. And we don't even know how because we didn't know any drummers. We didn't that wasn't a huge thing in our house. We kind of listened to the 80s bands with our dad, but that wasn't a huge influence in our musical taste or whatever at that time.
I mean, she's 4. Just you don't know what drums are?
Do you even know what you do?
She just knew right away that she was going to play drums. She maybe have a lot of energy pent up, maybe just banging on pots and pans as a kid. Is that how it happened?
I don't know. I don't know. She was just an angry child, I guess.
I always say that my heart knew what I wanted to do in life. Your heart beats to your own drum. Don't ever say that.
But yeah, so we were playing all these different instruments, and our dad was like, you guys, you have enough people to start a band, just play some covers of my favorite songs, and then, that's all you have to do, because you're still playing music and stuff. I'm like, okay, Dad, we're going to play some covers of your songs. So, we were playing Skillet songs, and, Petra songs, and Casting Crowns, and that sort of thing. And the guy who was helping us learn these songs, our teacher, he was like, you guys, you should start your own, original stuff because you're 3 girls and you're gonna have this, kind of little rock band, and that's kind of cool because it's not a huge popular thing right now because there's not a lot of all-girl bands. That'd be kind of cool. And we're like, okay. we'll go try and write some songs. Because, like, we were still, like, 10. And so, like, we were writing these songs. That's how we wrote Seek and Chatter and, like, the first songs of our EP. And so, like, they're a little slower and they're not as heavy as we are now because when we were first developing our writing skills and everything.
And who we are.
Yeah. And, like, we had no idea we would develop into a band, like, how we are in the direction that we are today. So we were, like, kind of more on the hard rock side of things.
We didn't even really listen to any, like, the metal music. We listened to more of, like,
Yeah, we didn't even know that existed yet.
like, soft rock and, like, a little heavy rock. But we've definitely developed, and, like, what we listen to and what we write is more heavy. Like, we listen to more heavy metal and we write more heavy metal, but we love keeping the melody part to it because, like, we love, like, we don't want to just do full screaming.
Yeah, we love
that's
harmonies.
something that's, like, kind of unique to us because we do have, since we're sisters, we have that unique melodic, like, blend when you're doing harmonies and stuff that it's hard to find with people who aren't, like, relatives and everything. So that's something that we try to stick to. So in, like, 2015, we dropped our EP. 2016, we dropped our first album. And so it's just, like, progressively working and developing your musical, like, direction through that.
Don't get me wrong, Full Screen was amazing, but just for us, we want to do something different because everyone's doing the same thing, and we like to stick out. We're like, we don't want to really do what everyone's doing because it kind of, gets boring. It's nothing different.
No, that is a really good point because, you guys harmonize together, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense because there's been a history in pop music of siblings, who have, because they're so closely related, that they have voices that blend together so naturally. Like a lot of times I'll think of like the Bee Gees or the Jackson 5 or any number of groups of siblings, whether it's brothers, sisters, what have you. You have this similarity in tone of voice that it makes for a really good sound, especially if there is some harmonizing going on, whether it's 2-part, 3-part, whatever. I think that is really cool that, that is one advantage that you girls have, I think, being sisters, is that you do have that quality and that you can all sing.
It definitely, I feel like it makes us tighter almost because when we're on stage, it's like our way we communicate. Like, we just know what each other are thinking. It's really weird. But we've heard that, like, the vocals, it's easier when you're siblings because, you tend to have, someone said it on tour, when we were on tour, that you tend to have, like, this, like, blend that sounds so beautiful. And it's, like, because you're siblings. But we've realized, like, when we're on stage that it's so much fun because we're sisters and we know what each other are thinking. Like, if someone does something, and, like, even if it's something funny, we'll all just start laughing. The crowd's like, what are they laughing at? It's just because we're siblings and we can literally read each other's minds. So it's really,
half the time we'll be laughing about stuff on stage and nobody knows what's going on just because we remembered something else that happened and we're joking about something that happened earlier on stage. And it's just like, what's going on? Like, they don't know what's going on. They're like, oh, yeah, they're having a good time. We'll have a good time, too.
It's literally so much fun.
Nice. Now that's definitely chemistry that you cannot manufacture. Now, as far as some of the original material that you girls have, do you all three of you write together, or maybe is there like one of you who does more of the writing than the others? Like, what's your typical process in terms of writing songs? Like, who does what?
I think we all three agreed on it because
It's just kind of like, okay, we're gonna grab each other's hands and jump in at the same time just to like immerse ourselves, because we're not like people to just kind of like dip our toes into something to like test it out. We're people to
We just like push each other
jump
in.
head first, and, like, even if we don't know what we're doing, just like, going full force at it. So I think it all just, at first it was all of us together, and then like each of us branched off to our individual like ways of writing, because like lyrics and stuff are typically my focus and my expertise, but then the girls will help with them and like help determine like which ones we're actually going to use and stuff. And then Lulu is like, she's the one who does the rhythm. She's the drummer. She just picks on like, she picks out the rhythm. She picks out what's going to go here, what's going to go here. And then like guitars and bass line and stuff is me and CJ. And so like we do that, and then we all come together for melody and everything. So it's kind of determining who like would branch off where.
It was definitely a like God-given talent that when we were young that we could do such things, because we were 10 maybe, you were 10 maybe, and like 10-year-olds shouldn't be writing songs like that. We literally had an EP by the time
we had an EP by the time I was 14, and then Lulu would be 10. So.
Yeah, I was 10, and I was playing like live shows with an EP that we'd written, and so it's definitely so crazy to look back and see where we'd started and where we are now in such short period of time. Like, we have an EP and an album out, and I'm still 13, which is absolutely so crazy. And it's definitely something that, like, you know, we thank God for, because this talent is definitely nothing that, like, we taught ourselves or we gave ourselves. We definitely keep that in mind, because it's totally insane and incredible.
Absolutely. That's great. Now, I know that, you know, from the beginning, obviously, you know, being as young as you were, your parents were involved with it, and I know that, you know, your parents were big music fans, and that sort of rubbed off on you. Did you take any inspiration from like music you heard from your parents, or are you more inspired now by, like, you know, discovering bands on your own, or is it sort of a little bit of both? Like, you know, who are you listening to a lot, who you would say kind of shaped your sound?
It was kind of a combination of the two. It definitely started out that's all we listened to. Like, there was no other music to us. We would only listen to the stuff our dad listened to, because we didn't really, like, branch out and look or whatever. But then our dad would start finding different bands. We'd be like, okay, we kind of like this band. And then when we go and play, people would suggest bands that we sounded like. They're like, oh, you kind of sound like Firefly, or you sound like Flyleaf and Lacey Sturm. And so I would go and research them, and I started getting into Flyleaf and, like, the heavier, like, Christian rock bands that are like that. And our dad didn't always listen to the heavier stuff, and he still kind of is, like, iffy with, like, the super heavy stuff, and he won't listen to it. So, like, I was the only one who would kind of dive deeper into that. And then our guitar music teacher, who, like, pushed us to write our first song, he showed us bands like Periphery and Metallica and Five Finger Death Punch and
Perfect Circle and stuff,
bands like that. And then we were like, oh, this is really cool. I like this music. And that's like the music our dad didn't listen to.
My drum teacher kind of showed me, like, Bring the Horizon and Ask Alexandria and stuff like that. And the funniest thing is that we got our mom into the music. So when she's driving our van on tour, because she's our bus driver, she'll be driving us, and she'll be listening to that music. It's so cool, because it's like, oh, Mom, like music.
Yeah, and then we were introduced to Welcome to Rockville, which is the Jacksonville, Florida, like, big rock fest that comes, like, every year. And the music experience, they go to music schools, and they offer, like, a chance to have, like, a kind of behind-the-scenes look at Welcome to Rockville, so you can go backstage and meet the people who run, like, the production, meet the people who run the food, like, meet all these radio people. And they show you that even if you're not part of, like, the rock star image, there's a bunch of people who go, like, into, like, making that rock star image. There's managers, there's, like, all the label people, there's production, there's
the people that make the equipment.
Yeah, people who make the equipment, people who send out the equipment. So they go out to schools, so those kids who aren't going to necessarily make it, or who don't have the, like, privilege to make it, or the, like, opportunity to make it, they don't, like, give up on the being involved in the music life. Like, they can have a different outlet. So we were invited to do that sort of thing.
And that festival really opened our eyes
and
to
we
that
were,
heavier side. We
were
all
like,
these bands. What have we been missing?
And, like, just the way that they communicated with the crowd and everything. Not only, like, just their stage presence, but with the music, and how, like, the crowd interacted with that. We're like, we want to have that. We want those heavy, heart-pounding moments where it's, like, super fast double bass pedal and screaming, or, like, super anthem song, like, singing. So that's just something that we wanted to incorporate after, like, being introduced to that.
I think you can really see that on some of the songs on our album, is where we got a little, excuse me, a little heavier. You can see where we were introduced to that music, and we took from that style, and we really incorporated it into what we wanted it to be. And it's definitely something that we're, like, thinking about for the, like, you know, upcoming songs, where we're like, oh, we really want to do something heavier, because we love, like, the aspect of the heavy metal and, like, what you can get the fans, like, it's just so crazy what you can get the fans to do, and, like, incorporating the fans, and just so much energy on stage, and So that's definitely where, like, on the album you can see a couple of the songs where when we went to Rockville, we saw those bands, we were like, oh my word, we want to do something like this.
Yeah. So you mentioned, Rockville, which is, one of the biggest, certainly one of the biggest music festivals in Florida as far as hard rock goes. And the same company that does that operates that, they also do a lot of other hard rock / metal festivals around the country, like in North Carolina and in Rocklahoma and in Fort Myers and a lot of different places. But I've never heard of any kind of organization where it involves like going around to music schools and bringing kids, not only to the festivals but also giving like these behind the scenes tour of them. What's the story with that? Because I haven't heard of anything like that.
It's kind of an organization, I guess is what it would be called. They're called the Music Experience, and they have like partnered with all the festivals, and so they go to them and they partner with them so they can provide the kids a way to come to all these festivals.
That's incredible. I've never heard of anything like that before. Man, I wish something like that was around when I was just learning how to play. That would be awesome. But yeah. So I'm checking out your website and learning some more information about your band, and I see that you girls have already done a little bit of touring already. What has that been like? Really cool. I mean, I'm assuming your mom and dad were probably involved in it, but where have you guys gone so far? How has that been going?
Last year, the summer, it was our first U.S. run tour that we were able to do, and we went as far as New Hampshire. Was that where Soulfest was? New Hampshire? Yeah. New Hampshire all the way to South Dakota, and then we went all the way down to Colorado and New Mexico, and then we played a couple shows all the way to Florida. So like we were all over the U.S. In the summer, and then we did a California run, so we got to play a couple shows in California. And some of like the bigger festivals that we played Kingdom Bound, we played Soulfest, we played Rock the Tarmac twice. We got to play Axes and Anchors Cruise, which is really cool. It's like the
Shiprocked.
It's like the sister of Shiprocked. And so bands like Breaking Benjamin and Motionless in White and Demon Hunter and Thousand Foot Crutch, they were on there, so we got to share the stage with them. And it was kind of like, it was more than a 3-day festival. I think it was like a week. But it was like the same
5 days.
Yeah, it was like a 5-day festival basically, but you couldn't like skate because it was on a cruise ship.
You have to listen to our music.
That is true about the cruise ships. They literally cannot go anywhere. They have no choice but to listen to you. That is awesome. You girls have been like all over the country. This is incredible. So I mean, I kind of mentioned it, kind of in passing, that your mom and dad are involved in this. What role exactly do they play in this? Are they like managing you? Are they, how exactly do they factor into all this?
Well, they're very involved. Our mother acts as our manager, our bus driver, our booking agent, like all the people who are involved. She acts as that right now. And then
shout out to our mom.
Yeah, shout out to our mom. She's great. And then our dad, he's very involved, and he financially supports us. He doesn't always get to go on tour with us because he's working, and he travels for his work, so he doesn't get to take those days off. But he's very, very supportive of us, and if we're ever playing local shows, he's there. And like even
he runs our light shows.
Yeah, even when we're like on tour, if we're in an area where he has business clients, he'll fly out just so he can see our show and be there and help load and be our loading crew and everything.
It's so crazy. No matter how many times he sees us perform, he's always there to watch us.
Yeah,
and,
he's like our biggest fan.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
It's so great to see him because he runs our lights and our fog machines, and he's like Maggie said, he's also our loadout guy, and so he'll be running that, and then once we're finished, he's ready to go and he's packing stuff up, and it's so like amazing because we have to go to our merch table and meet all our fans, and so we come back out and we don't have to like put everything up because he's already done it, and we'll help load up the rest of the stuff. But it's so amazing because they are so supportive of their band, and we are so blessed to have the parents we have because they love what we do. They love the band. We practice in our house, and so like they're not like turn it down. They're out there and like while we're practicing, like pretending fans and like doing different things, and it's so much fun because it's such supportive, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's awesome. That is so important, especially to have supportive parents who are, who are able to be encouraging and to show you that positive reinforcement. I think that makes all the difference in the world, especially if you're trying to get into the entertainment industry at a young age, like what you girls are trying to do. I think that makes all the difference in the world. I think you see a lot of child stars who end up making bad decisions, probably because they didn't quite have that parental support going into it. Now, and this definitely hits home for me because, I just became a dad myself. My wife and I, we have a 7-month-old baby girl at home. So I'd like to think I'd be supportive of, if she, came up to me and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to make music of my own." I'd like to think that I'd have that same kind of attitude as well. Now, granted, I don't know your parents. I've never met them. But based on what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like they're the type of, like, stage parents to try to, like, push you guys into this. Would that be correct to assume that? I mean, it does. Like, I'm not getting that vibe, based on what you're telling me about them. I don't think that's the case. Would that be fair to say?
No.
They've told us times before. Sorry, keep going.
Well, they've, like, told us time and time again, like, if this is not something that you want to do, don't feel like you have to do it. We don't want to push you into doing something that you're just going to, like, hate it because your parents are making you do it. We decided, like, the first show we played, like, we've been playing a couple local shows or whatever, but the first real show we played went to Georgia in 2014. We played a show near Atlanta, and when we got off the stage, we were like, no, this is what we want to do for the rest of our lives. Like, there's no doubt about it. And we were only, like, 14, 15, and they're like, how do you know?
I was,
like
9.
Yeah, she was, like, 9. And they were like, how do you know that that's what you want to do? I'm like, no, like, we know this is what we want to do. And then
Here we are.
yeah, like, now we've, like, pulled out of, like, actual school. We're doing homeschool now. Just, like, and that was a huge step. Our parents were like, are you sure you want to do this? Because, like, you have to have the discipline to do homeschool and write music and, like, tour and everything. We're like, no, this is what we want to do. Like, this is, like, what we feel our calling is. And I'm like, okay. So, like, they're definitely huge supporters, and they push us to our, like, biggest potential, but they're not, like, pushing us to do it against our will. Like, this is what, we made the decision to do this.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that that's the case. I had a feeling that it might be. I'm definitely getting a good, a feeling of good, strong family values sort of at the foundation of, where this band came from. And I think that's a good thing. Especially, this is a rough business to get into. So it's nice to have that support system. And speaking of, foundations and family values, but you girls have definitely made it known that you are Christians, and that there is a slightly faith-inspired message by a lot of your music, and you have sort of hinted at your beliefs certainly on stage. And I'm just curious: do you consider GFM to be a Christian band, or are you girls who are in a band that just happen to be Christian? Is there a difference to you? Because I imagine you'll be asked that question a lot. How would you respond to that?
We see ourselves as a Christian band because we have Christian members, but we're not gonna outrightly push it down your throats, like, even just through our lyrics or on stage. We're not gonna say, hey, you gotta believe what we believe, or, you know what, we hate you, and we're not gonna play shows for you. Like, most of the shows we play are general market venues. Our music is accepted more in general market venues just because it is the heavier side of things. So it's definitely not something that we're going to hide. Like, we're not going to be like, oh, we're Christians, but we're not going to tell you. Like, don't understand. We're not going to be Christians around people. Like, we are Christians. We're going to tell people what we believe. We're going to state it out there. But it's like, if you want to accept it, that's cool. If not, it's cool too.
It's like, have fun at the show that we're playing.
Yeah, we want to promote a extremely, like, positive message through our music. So that's, like, with our lyrics, they're not so transparent. So, like, you have to kind of listen to them and really listen to them and be like, oh, those are kind of Christian lyrics if you think about it, but it's not going to be, like, outrightly in your face, like turn or burn lyrics. So, it's just promoting this positive movement that we want to like show to people in the metal world, because that's not an extremely popular thing,
Yeah.
like nowadays with metal music.
Everyone's like, let's all be depressed and we don't like ourselves and all this. We want to like show like everyone that it's okay to be like, it's okay to be happy. It's okay to and like sing metal and be happy.
And even if you're feeling those feelings of anger, you can have a positive anger and you don't have to negatively let it affect you.
That's good. I think it is important to make that distinction early on, that you're not necessarily trying to preach to anyone. You're just, this is who you are, and it doesn't necessarily define your music, but you do have an elements of positivity and hope in there, which I think is very important. And you're absolutely right. I think people, get very cynical and they don't allow themselves to feel good, or they think that because something is more positive that makes it, that it somehow has less artistic value. And I definitely disagree with that. And I think it's good to have, positive and negative emotions, in music, because it's a part of life. You're expressing that. I think it is important to ask that question sometimes, because I think, having that label of being a Christian band attached to that can be sort of a double-edged sword, because that can inspire a lot of people, but that can also turn a lot of people off. Like one of my favorite bands growing up was Creed, and that's a band that took a lot of heat from people, because sort of on both sides. There were a lot of people who didn't think they were Christian enough, and a lot of people who didn't like the band because they thought that they were a Christian band and they thought that they were getting preachy, even though those guys have said repeatedly that they were never trying to be an evangelical Christian band. They just happened to have some lyrics that Scott Stapp wrote because he grew up as a Christian, and he is a Christian to this day. But I feel like people tend to judge you and look at you differently, positive or negatively, for that. And it's definitely good to make that distinction that this is a part of us, but it's not, that our music is for everybody. And I think that's a good thing to establish out there, like right out of the gate. As far as your lyrical content, you mentioned that there are, positive and negative, elements of your lyrics, and that they can be very uplifting and inspiring, at many times. Is that sort of a general theme of a lot of your songs, or do you have like an overall theme to the type of lyrics that you write?
I feel like our overall theme is we are a new breed rising. It's something
for this album, it was definitely
like something we brought up multiple times. We're not gonna be like everyone else, like what we kind of talked about. Like we're not gonna sing songs about like you have to be depressed, you can't be happy, stuff like that. We're not gonna it's gonna be a positive message.
When it's like not being afraid to talk about like the weaknesses or the issues that you're facing with your life, like not hiding the fact that you're dealing with depression or anxiety or even like self-harm or suicide, like in extreme cases like that. You don't have to be silent about that. You can speak out and get help and talk about that. So that was definitely, with our album Identity Crisis, the big kind of message behind the whole album. But it's not necessarily like we wrote down, okay, this is the message, so we have to write songs about that.
We didn't want to what's it called? You have to write something. You can't let your imagination go.
We didn't want to put ourselves in a box.
Yeah.
We write how we're feeling, and then when we put them together, we're like, okay, so this is the general message of our album. This is what we're going to promote through it. But it's definitely, we're writing how we're feeling, and just like being true with the fans.
The experiences we've had.
Yeah. And showing people like how you can learn from them, how you can develop, and like, even if, like Judas Kiss, it's talking about how you can become a monster if you let, like betrayal negatively affect you. And it's just showing people, it's being true to people through your writing.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely run into people who either like what we're doing or don't like what we're doing, and they're just gonna be like, you can't please everyone. And so we definitely think, we we want to do something that helps people, but we also want to do it to where it's still us. We don't want to change so that people like us. We don't want to change so that we're accepted by everyone. We want to definitely stay true to who we are, and there's gonna be people who don't like that, but it's like you can't please everyone.
That is absolutely true. That is probably the one universal truth of the entertainment industry is that it's next to impossible to entertain everyone. So you just got to do the best you can. Especially criticism can be so crazy out of control, especially now with the way people can hide and everyone's a critic because they have the anonymity of either the keyboard or their phone or other device or what have you. People can say some outrageous things out there, and it's like, it's definitely a daunting thing to put yourselves out there like that. But again, you're doing what you love to do, and yeah, definitely can't fault you for that. Now, getting into a few more of your influences, obviously, rock and roll is in many ways is still very male dominated in terms of a lot of the artists, but throughout rock history, there have been great female artists and performers. Are there any female musicians out there that you in particular has influenced the way you like to play?
Um, I definitely, when we first started this, Lacey Sturm was like the biggest inspiration because she was all I knew who was like in the industry, who was doing the heavy, like rough screaming as well as singing, like both with Flyleaf and with her solo project now. So that was all I knew of. So when we first started, like incorporated screaming in that. That's like all I would listen to. It was Lacey Sturm and Flyleaf and that sort of thing. But now it's more of like stitched apart with Mixie. She's extremely influential, just with like her vocal range and everything, and how she approaches singing on top of rock music. I think it's really cool. They've played like some of the bigger festivals, the bigger rock festivals. But she comes on it with more of like a soulful singing, but she also does the screaming as well. So it's kind of like aggressive, but it's still like the kind of a unique melodic way to like interact with rock music. And it's like not something that's very common. So I thought it was really cool how she would approach that. And then like, what's her name? Ash Costello from New Year's Day. She's really cool because she has more of the anthem voice. And those are the biggest influences.
Yeah.
On Tonight Alive. They're not a rock band. They're more like punk alternative. But she's just very like unique with the way she approaches her melodies as well. It's like it's not what you would expect, especially from like a female vocalist. Weird things she does, but it's like it works. It's weird, but it works. They're called Tonight Alive, and so that's really cool. They're kind of like it's kind of this eerie feeling, but it's on top of pop punk music a little bit, so it's kind of cool. But
It's really strange because there's not a lot of females who even think that they are allowed to do metal. We've run into so many people who are like, oh, I didn't know girls could do metal. It's like, what?
yeah, you definitely can.
Of course, they absolutely can. I know that for a fact. I've seen it. It's I mean, come on. Of course, girls can play metal. Girls can play anything they want. It's it's 2018 for God's sake. I actually have a funny story about Flyleaf. Back in 2006, I was in my first band when I was out of college. We were called Lives Page, and we played a show in Tampa. We were based in Tampa at the time. We played a show in Tampa at a club called the Orpheum, and I remember my drummer was really excited. He's like, hey Jack, we're opening up for this band called Flyleaf. They and he turned on the radio station 97X, and we heard some of their songs. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. At the time, they were just getting off of a tour of the UK, opening for Stained. again, I still wasn't all that familiar with them. I didn't really get to meet Lacey. I got to meet their bass player Pat. He was a really good guy. But yeah, I was really impressed with them. And then, sure enough, a few months later, I found out that they were on the Family Values tour with Korn, and that they were, going on to a lot of big success. So I was like, oh wow, who knew that band I opened for at the club ended up being famous? So no, I mean, I know you girls have done a little bit of touring, played some big festivals. Have you gotten the chance to play with Lacey or with Flyleaf at all? In all your travels, have you gotten that opportunity to do that yet?
Yeah, we played with her new project she came out.
Her solo project.
Yeah, her solo project. And she's just the nicest person. Her passion to help people and her lyrics have really helped us develop because that's our passion. We want to help people. We want to make people feel things with our lyrics and our music. And so just being able to talk with her, we played like Rock the Tarmac, and then no, wasn't on the cruise.
No,
what was the other?
That was Thoughts of a Crush. So they were like a guy band.
We played Rock the Tarmac.
We played Viridia.
Oh, yeah.
They're another women-fronted group.
Oh, yeah. That's
at the same Rock the Tarmac. So, like, just being able to meet women in the industry and, like, being able to talk to them and everything, that's really cool. Just to, like, be encouraged through that.
Sounds good. Like I said, there is a rich history of strong, talented, powerful women in rock and roll, and it sounds to me like you are following right in their footsteps. So best of luck to you girls going forward. I know your website is thegfmband.com, and I think that has a link to all your social media.
Yeah, and all our social media is at the GFM Band. It's really simple. Everything's the GFM Band. And we're on everything except for MySpace. So
that's funny. I think I might have an old MySpace profile still out there somewhere. I don't know. I kind of miss MySpace. It was pretty good for bands, when it was around before it got too complicated. But yeah, no. Thank you girls so much for being on the show. I'm really looking forward to sharing the stage with you on March 3rd at the Shady Oaks Lounge in Palm Bay. I was really impressed when I saw you play in Orlando, so I'm excited to have you on the same show as my band, and I'm really looking forward to it. Definitely continued success in the future, and good luck to all three of you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. Yeah. We're super excited for the March 3rd show. We're gonna rock. So much fun.
Thanks once again to CJ, Maggie, and Lulu of Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh, also known as GFM. Really, really talented young girls, very sweet, very nice. Really cool of them to come on my show and tell everyone about their band. I think they have a lot of potential to, and they're very talented, especially at such a young age. I was really, really impressed when I saw them, and their songs sound great. Their album Identity Crisis and their EP Death of Giants are both available on iTunes and Spotify, so make sure you check them out if you get the chance. I'll be posting links to all their website and all their social media here in the description. So yeah, really a pleasure to have those girls on the show. I think they have a really bright future ahead of them, so hopefully they stick with it. As far as upcoming events, on Saturday, February 10th, I will be playing an acoustic show at Winfields and Satellite Beach, along with Dominic St. Charles of Earn, Justin Weir of 21 to Burn. The show will be headlined by John Corabi, who, of course, is the former lead singer of Motley Crue, and also went on to play guitar for the band Rat for many years. He is currently in a band called the Dead Daisies. This should be a really exciting show just to see him play songs from throughout his long career. So I'm really excited to do that. I've been a fan of John Corabi's for a long time, so I'm really looking forward to that. And Vertebreaker will be playing our first show of the year, and so far it's our only show scheduled. It will be on Saturday, March 3rd at Shady Oaks Lounge, which I mentioned earlier, because GFM will be there with us. So it'll be Vertebreaker, GFM, Crowfly, and Red Calling. Should be a really exciting night. The show is called Heavy Metal Communion 4. It is presented by our good friend Chris Sherry. So we're really looking forward to getting out, and like I said, we haven't been playing out as much over the last few months, but we're looking forward to kind of getting out of the studio for a little bit and coming to see you guys in person. So hopefully if you're in the area, we hope to see you there. I would definitely come out and check GFM out because they're going to be there as well, and just to see what they're all about. And Crowfly and Red Calling are bands that we've known for a long time, so it's going to be a great show. I definitely encourage you to come on out for this one if you can. That is it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at JackXConnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/JackConnorMusic. Feel free to check out my band, Vertebreaker, at facebook.com/VertebreakerBand. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com. You could tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. If you're listening to this on YouTube or iTunes or however you're listening to this, feel free to go back and check out all the other episodes. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Phoenix Report. My name is Jack Connor, and I will see you in the audience.